Hello again, welcome back to the potting shed. So you've just bought yourself a rubber plant and you're quite interested in some care tips on how to look after it, maybe when to water it, how to prune it, and maybe some scintillating facts that you almost certainly didn't know. Well, stick around and all will be revealed. Alrighty. So the rubber plant, or Ficus elastica as it is known by its Latin name. Interestingly, these plants used to be used to create rubber, hence its name. If you chop this plant, the thick milky substance that comes out is actually the base derivative of latex. They don't use it anymore, they use a different tree, but it's still ultimately comes from a plant. These days we just use it as a very decorative house plant, and I'm sure you will agree it is a handsome looking beast. They're well known for their big glossy leaves, and these just keep getting bigger and glossier as the plant grows. An easy to look after house plant and readily available. This is an old favourite. It's been around for a long time and still as popular as ever with these big glossy leaves. They come in a few different shades. You can get some dark red ones, you can get some variegated varieties, and also these common green leaf varieties, and I think they all look pretty nice. So let's get on to a care guide then. The good news is these are pretty simple to look after actually. There's just a few things that you have to bear in mind that are going to make your life a lot easier. Firstly, let's talk about watering. The only thing this doesn't like is being kept too wet for too long. So give it a good water, but once you've given it a good water, make sure the water runs out the bottom of the pot. It's not normally in this pot. I've just put it in here to stop it tipping over because it's a bit top heavy. But once you've watered it, give it a good water and just make sure it's all through the top of the soil and that it drains all the way through out the other side. If you've got a sink or something that you can put it in and just let the water carefully get through and make sure all of the soil is totally drenched, and leave it in the sink to drain through for a few minutes afterwards. You can even, if you do have an appropriate sized pot, you can even put the water in the bottom of the pot and let it soak it up from the base. That's okay too. Make sure it's well watered so all of the soil is evenly nice and soaked. But at that stage, now what you want to do is leave it to dry out in between. Not completely, but at least a good inch or so down in the soil. So the top inch should have dried before you water it again. So don't leave it dry for weeks and weeks and weeks, but you shouldn't just keep watering it and keep watering it regardless, because if it stays wet, it doesn't like that. Now, if you're new to keeping houseplants and you're not really sure what that perfect point is, then there are a couple of things you can do. Firstly, pick the plant up and just feel the weight of the pot, because as it gets drier, the pot will get lighter, so you can get to know the feel of it. But if you are new and you're really unsure, there's one surefire way that's going to make your life much easier, and that is using a water meter. These things are cheap as chips and easy to get hold of. You can buy them from eBay. I'll put a link down below if you're in the UK. I'll put a link to a website where you can buy them, and if you're in the US, I'll provide an eBay link where you can grab them as well. Super cheap, under £10 or $10, and these are going to make your life a lot easier. It's got a scale from red, green and blue. The red, it means it's completely dry. The green is in the middle where it should be, and the blue means it's wet. Okay, so if it's in the green, you're fine. If it's in the blue, it's fine. If it's in the red, then that's when you need to water again. Really easy to use. All you have to do, there's no batteries in it, it just uses a probe at the bottom here. You're going to put it into the soil and watch the gauge move. Let me show you that. Can you see that? I don't know if it's focusing. It's in the green to show you there's plenty of moisture in that soil. So just keep checking it with this. If you want to use that, just put it in the soil, give it a good push down, maybe halfway down in the pot, and see what it says. And if it still says moist, you haven't got to do anything. Once it starts to get to the dry point, once it starts getting to it, so maybe number 3, if you're pushing it halfway down, it starts sitting on the red line there, then again, give it a good water. Don't just put a bit in, wait until it gets to the dry, and then take it back, put it in the sink or whatever you want to do, and make sure all of the soil is now moist again. Whether you water it from the bottom or water it from the top, the main thing is water it well and then leave it. That way the soil has time to dry out a little bit, which means that the roots are not constantly sitting in water and the plant gets exactly what it wants. So I'll leave the links down below to the moisture meter. Super cheap, super easy. If you're just getting started, it's a great way to get to know when is a good time. And before long, once you've seen it a few times, you'll get a feeling for how long that is. So for the light requirements, these rubber plants do prefer a bright indirect spot, so they do like plenty of light. But if you put it in a position where it's going to get direct sun directly on the leaves, you may get some scorching of some leaves. So just pull it back a little bit if that happens, but a nice sunny spot will be fine. You could probably put it in a lower light area, but it just means it's probably going to grow a little bit less. Temperature wise, pretty easy, 60 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 to 25 degrees Celsius, your average sort of inside temperatures. If it gets a bit warmer or it gets a bit colder, it's probably going to be fine. They're fairly tolerant of the temperature range. I've had this in my back porch all winter. It's unheated, and that probably got well below 10 degrees Celsius over the winter in the coldest nights. It's been absolutely fine. No sign of any problems with that whatsoever. Fertilizer, nice and easy. You can buy a balanced all-purpose houseplant fertilizer. I'll put a link down below where you can get that. Feed it once a month in the growing season, so spring to fall or autumn, and that will be absolutely fine. If you want it to grow bigger and bushier, then maybe you might want to feed it a little more often, maybe twice a month, and then you'll get more growth. And then obviously you have to probably water it a little bit more, and then maybe give it a prune, but depends what you want. Once a month is fine. Twice a month gives you a lot more growth that you'll have to keep on top of, which brings me to my next point, and that is pruning. As you can see, the habit of this is straight up, long and thin. You can create bushy looking plants, and some people appreciate that. And how to do that is simply by pruning. So you'll get the growing tip coming out from the top here. All you have to do is pinch out that or cut it off with some secateurs or pruners. If you take that out, what that's going to do is stimulate growth from the base. So you'll get more growing stems from the base, and then you'll have a more bushy plant. And as they get nice and long, you could pinch them out as well, and then you'll get some more. So over time you can repot it into a bigger container, and you can have a nice big bushy rubber plant if that is the type that you're looking for. If you like this long and thin deal, it will just keep growing up. If you leave it like that, that's how it will grow, just keep growing up like that. But yeah, it's easy to look after, easy to prune, and if it gets bigger than you would like, then that's all you need to do is trim it, and it will start growing from the base once again. Propagation is relatively straightforward. You can do that from cuttings, but I'll do a separate video about that in the future. This isn't quite ready to take any cuttings. When it is, I'll do a separate in-depth video about that. So if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified of that video coming up in the future. Other care points to think about is cleaning the leaves. As they've got these big glossy leaves, they get bigger over time, and they will get a bit dusty if they're sitting in your house. And so it's a good idea just to get some kitchen roll, give it a bit, make it a bit damp under the tap, and just clean the leaves. Just wipe the dust off the leaves just with a little bit of water is the best thing to use. And whilst you're doing this is a really good time just to inspect the plant. Look underneath the leaves, because if you're going to get any pests and diseases, they're most likely to be located underneath the leaves or in between where the petiole meets the stem. So where the base of the leaf comes into the stem, in between there is where you're likely to get pests and diseases like whitefly. So maybe once a month or once every couple of months, when you think about it, just get a piece of kitchen roll or a soft damp cloth and wipe the leaves down. Just take a minute to spend some time with your plant. Great opportunity to make sure you pay attention to how it's going. It's easy when you're busy to be sort of ignoring it, walking past, life's going on, and you kind of don't really pay attention to it. You throw some water in every now and again and move on with your busy day. But it does really help the plant and you as well to just slow down for a second and spend 5 minutes with your plant, and you'll be surprised at how much that takes your blood pressure down. Just think about the plant, take a moment to really look at it, clean those leaves, have a look for any pests, and just slow it down a little bit. I think it really is a useful time to be with your plant, and that's why I really enjoy houseplants. It gives me an opportunity to get back to nature really and spend a bit of time with something that is growing in my house, and it really is a good time just to be peaceful for a moment and yeah, check in with the plant, check in with yourself as well. Alrighty, I think that pretty much covers all the care tips for this here Ficus elastica, the rubber plant. If you found this useful, please give it a thumbs up. It is always appreciated. Subscribe for more houseplant related videos coming along very soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again. Bye for now.